Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to Author's Corner, where we highlight and showcase our local authors. Today, I am speaking to Andrea Waltz, author of Go for No. Yes is the destination, no is how you get there. And we're going to be talking on the topic today, elevate your mindset, finding strength and success in every no. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be with you today.
Yes, I'm so happy to have this conversation. When I was going through my sales training, that's exactly what they said, that, there's all these rebuttals for no because, um, uh, and a lot of times I have people pitching me for stuff. And even though it's annoying, I actually love it when they just walk right by my no. And come back with, whatever. I mean, it's annoying, but I know that they're not going to just run away the first time I say no. So it's amazing conversation to have. All right, so let me give you guys a book summary. What if the word no didn't slow you down, depress, or discourage you? Like I mentioned, the people that pitch me. Because sticks and stones may break my bones, but no can never hurt me. That's the lesson 28-year-old copier salesman Eric Bratton is about to learn. And he's going to learn it from the most unlikely of all mentors, himself. So before the weekend is over, Eric will learn what it takes to outperform 92% of the world's salespeople, that failing and being a failure are two different things, a whole new way to set goals that's simple, fun, and gets results. Why is it important to celebrate success and failure? The five failure levels and how to progress through them. How to get past failure and rejection quickly and then move on. And the most important word in the world is not yes, it's no. Love that change of mindset. Just flip it around. All right. So, as we get started, Andrea, can you share how you got started with the go for no mindset and what inspired you to help others transform their relationship with rejection?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and first of all, I have to say that I love your comment about how it can be annoying, but you can't help but respect someone who gets told no and then they're persistent enough to come back and maybe be creative and try a different way or come up with a different angle. So I agree with you that people like that, have to be admired a little bit because for the most part, the everyone takes a no and they just turn around quickly and go home.
Mhm.
So, yes, I'm glad that you said that. I learned this go for no philosophy over 2 decades ago from my husband, who is also my business partner at the time. He and I were working at the same company, a company called Lens Crafters, the big eyeglass retailer.
Mhm.
And he told me this story of a time that he was selling suits for a living and he wasn't doing all that well. He was actually failing, afraid they were going to fire him. And the district manager came in one day to the store, watched him have this great sale. And my husband sold this man a suit and a sport coat and all of these things. And the customer left. And then this district manager said to my husband, said, out of curiosity, what did that customer say no to? And Richard, my husband, had to admit that that customer didn't say no to anything, that everything that he laid in front of that man, he purchased. It was a great sale. And then the district manager asked him the really important question that he said, then how did you know he was done? Because the customer hadn't said no to anything. He was just buying, buying, buying. And as it turned out, Richard learned a really important lesson that day, which was he was selling from his own wallet, his own pocketbook, and the district manager said to him, I watched you sell and you're not half bad, but your fear of the word no is going to kill you. If you could just learn to get over that, he said, I think you could be one of the great ones. So Richard tells me this story, Myrna, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't really have a problem with no. I don't actually mind it all that well. I'm a pretty good salesperson and I get no all the time. But then I had to get honest with myself and realize that, you know what? The truth was I did avoid it. That was the truth. I tried my best to not hear no. And even if I wanted to maybe ask for something more, I would hold back because in my head I would think, oh, they're just going to tell me no. And that's what so many of us do is we think of something, think of something that we want or a goal that we have or somebody we want to ask for something and we hold back. So when I heard that story, I was just I was in complete agreement with the premise of it. I thought this is a secret of success. And so eventually we started our own company. We started a business speaking and training and sharing this message and this strategy with people. And we wrote the book as you described it. We wrote the book. And so now for all these years, I basically wake up every day figuring out how do I get the message out of Go for Now? How do I go out, and it's one of the reasons why I'm on your podcast, and share this message that if you want something in life, if you want success, the secret is not just going after yes. The secret is actually to go for no.
I absolutely love that. As you were talking, I was running it through my own personal filter. And I have been a salesperson for a long time. And started with computer sales, and I was actually a copier sales too. And then I was working for Office Depot selling, and then I'm a realtor. Then one of the last things I did before I became a podcast host was real estate. And I will tell you that in all those scenarios, right? I'm pretty good relationship builder. So I actually never really went for no because I don't like it. But I'm getting the concept is that let's say that I'm building this relationship with this is how I sell. And I went and somebody said, okay, I'm gonna buy one of my biggest sales was 400 computers when I was selling computers, 400 computers. Then you would think that what your concept is, okay, somebody just agreed to buy 400 computers, then offer him something else so that he would say, no, that's enough. You know what I mean? But if you stop when you think, okay, you've got this big order, then you are not like your the district manager said to your husband. I mean, yeah, I mean, until you hear no, this person's had enough. But flipping that around, I as a realtor, when we went out and did calls, 90% of people say no. And I hate that. Now they give you all these rebuttal things. So if this person says no, this, then you say yes and all that. But that's not my personality. But what you're talking about is not rebuttal. It is just um, offering something that they will say no to, and then you've got a go around for it. So let's talk about that. What is it, using the same scenario with your husband selling this person all these things, and then he is going to go for that no rejection? Walk us through that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, and I like that you brought this up. So there's two different schools of thought, right? One is um, the idea that I will never take no for an answer, right? I'll never take no for an answer. And we've all been helped by a salesperson who won't take no for an answer. And the problem with that, of course, is that when we say no and it's not respected, or the person says, well, no, you're wrong, and you actually should say yes, and here are the reasons why, and blah blah blah. And so now you feel really pressured, and we've all made a bad buying decision because someone did that to us. So that, to your point, that is not what the go for no philosophy is. Now, having said that, I think that when it comes to when you get that no, is being able to respectfully push back and do it in such a way that perhaps the person is open, like, for example, just merely asking, well, what makes you say no? And if the person says, well, I'm saying no because of this, then it's like, great, understood. No is a perfectly acceptable answer. And when you're building relationships, you have to be okay with that, right? It's you've got to be okay with that. I think most people don't get to that point though. They're so far, they're not t- and it takes real professional salespeople to get to the point where they're managing an actual no, because like to what you're saying, that is the kind of the whole next level. We're simply trying to encourage people to look for the opportunities in their business or their life where they have the opportunity to ask the question.
Mm,
And when you think about whatever business you're in, or even on a daily basis, and you think, what are my goals? What are my dreams? What am I trying to achieve? Who do I need to ask? What do I need to ask them for? Where is the help that I need? How can I best get that? And also, what's in it for that other person to help me? Like, what's in it for other people to give me resources or to buy my product or whatever. And so I think that there's also a skill in asking as well. But Myrna, the first thing we've got to start with, though, back up, is the mindset. And that's the mindset that if you want to achieve anything in life, you're going to have to be willing to ask. You're going to have to be willing to put yourself on the line and be willing to hear no. And a lot of people just say no to that. It's just, I'm sure you've met a lot of people who say to you things like, oh, I could never be a salesperson because,
right.
and I've heard this myself for years. I could never be a salesperson because I could never take the rejection.
Yeah, right. Yes,
Right?
yes, yes.
So some people don't want to be actors or artists because they can't deal with the rejection, or writers because they can't deal with the rejection. There's a lot of professions out there where people would love to do them, but they simply don't think that they have the internal strength and resilience to deal with that rejection. So that is step one, is having the mental attitude that no is okay and that you can survive it.
Yeah, as you were talking, I remembered one of the one of the one of the people that they always talk about um, in in most of these kind of discussions is the girl that wrote Harry Potter. I forget her name now. How she
J.K.
sent out
Rowling.
right, how she
Yeah.
sent out her manuscript to 30, several, anyway, a lot of people before she got the yes, because you're right, a lot of people would send out their manuscript to maybe five people and they get a no and then they're done. But she kept sending it until somebody said someone said yes. So yeah, I mean, you're correct. It is a mindset. And the most successful people um, uh, learn that maybe it takes 100 no's to get to one yes. That's actually a formula. Or that no means no now, but not no in the future. I'm not sure if you're going to get to that because a lot of times they tell you no, it just means temporary no. Maybe I'm not interested now, but I might be interested, later on. So, what do you think is the biggest mental barrier people face when it comes to asking for what they want? For instance, when I was a salesperson, I was very uncomfortable asking for the sale. So they tell you that you can have this assumptive close and all that, but I was very uncomfortable saying, can we go ahead? Or can we do that? You know what I mean? Because it was not my personality. I just wanted it to flow where it was assumptive. So yeah, so what is the biggest barriers to asking for what you want or asking for the sale?
Yeah, it's such a great question. Well, I think there are a couple things, right? And one of them, and this is something that I see in I run these coaching groups periodically for people who want to do a go for no 21-day challenge. It's really fun. They sign up, and for 21 days they are tasked with going out and going for no in their business. And we have people in all different industries. We have people who are selling like digital advertising, and we have people in real estate and insurance agents, and people from all different walks of life. And so for 21 days, they practice this, and we come back and we talk about how their week went. And inevitably, what happens is there's a lot of all of a sudden, it's like this isn't like something so crazy that they haven't done this before. This is do your normal activity, right? But all of a sudden, they're really focused on the idea of asking. So there's a couple things. One is you do have to be more proactive and more assertive. And I remember one of the guys in my challenge one time he said, I realized that I'm having conversations with people, but I'm not really necessarily asking at the end. I'm
Well,
having
that's what
these
I
great
said.
conversations,
I
right?
never wanted to do it.
Right, right. And so that was something that he learned to work on, which was just at the end making that ask, but always doing it in the customer's best interest and always doing it after kind of the due diligence was performed, the right questions were asked, and and part of that is just the skill and practice of asking. And so that's what we do in the challenge, is just to practice making those asks. And that is part of it, is having that skill. And the other part of it, as we've talked about, the other big barrier is just mental roadblocks. Sometimes it has to do with just feeling worthy enough to ask, just feeling deserving. Some people come at it and they feel like they're being pushy or aggressive, so they need to take their time and make sure that they've laid the groundwork, right, before they make the ask. And so when you challenge yourself, and this is what I would encourage listeners to do, is challenge yourself to see if you can collect a decision. And in a go for no world, we say collect a no, right? So go out and collect a no. And what you learn is you learn where your gaps are and where is that hesitation coming from, so that you can work on that. And you can, if you're feeling maybe unworthy, or maybe you're lacking self-esteem, then you work on your belief system. And that is, do you believe in your product? Do you believe in what you're doing? So you can work on that. If it's just you have some awkwardness about exactly how to ask, you should, you want to, but you're not really sure what that sounds like, then you can work on that skill. But you can't work on anything until you push yourself outside your comfort zone, and you
Right.
start right? And you start testing yourself and really forcing yourself to be in that position where you can see what's happening, where you can see what's going on with you, and where that hesitation is coming up. And it does require a good amount of self-awareness, right?
Mhm.
And you've got to really be willing to be honest and really open-minded, and kind of look at yourself and say, okay, where is that hesitation? And that also means, Myrna, that you got to do it more than once. Like it can't just be a one-time thing where
Yeah,
you go like,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to go out and try it one time. No, no, no.
Yeah,
We need data, right? We need data. And so
yeah.
what that means is you got to go out and you got to practice enough and put yourself in enough situations where you can start getting better and start seeing like, oh, this is where I keep having the hang up, right?
Yeah, well, actually, that's pretty good. Because yes, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, why is it that I didn't want to ask for the sale? Was I feeling aggressive? I didn't want to be aggressive. Did I think that they were going to say no, which is why I went for the assumptive close? Will that be cash or credit or something like that, which is the assumptive close? You're not really asking, you're just assuming, which was my personal style. But yeah, you're right. And then when you get the no, you just like hightail out of there. You don't really go back and say and continue the conversation kind of thing, which is what they taught you in sales school, that never take a no, just rebuttal things. But then they say, if they say this, then you do this. I don't really like that. That's not my personal style. So, but you're right. If you practice it, then you get comfortable in anything. Nothing happens if it's outside your comfort zone, right? So you've got to learn to do it. There's some people that it doesn't really bother them at all. You know what I mean? They don't really mind, so, and those are the successful ones. The people that have a problem with asking for the sale, you know, doing rebuttals when they should and all that kind of stuff. So you're right. And I like what you said that you've got to practice it. You've got to be aware of what's your hang up, and you also have to, push yourself through. Like if you want to say, okay, thank you, we'll talk next week, then you push yourself to say, may I ask the question of, why it is that you're saying no, that I missed something or all that, so I like it. I like
Absolutely.
it. I like
And I
it.
want to, and you just brought something up too, and so I want to just, if you don't mind, I'll just dovetail onto this,
Hmm.
and that is this, you know, a lot of people who are in sales, or even if you're not in sales, but you have to ask for something, our society has taught us that no is somehow bad, right? And that we almost, especially in sales, that we've got to pressure people for yes. And
Hmm.
so I think that pressure is on the shoulders of salespeople a lot, in the back of their mind of I have to pressure. And your experience of being taught of, hey, here's how we're going to do these rebuttals, here's how you're not going to accept a no, you're going to come back and you're going to manage these objections,
Hmm.
which is certainly a skill. And a lot of times customers will want something, but they are just unsure, and they kind of need help. They kind of need the push
Push,
off
right?
off the fence of indecision, as we like to call it. And
Hmm.
so sometimes that is a service that a salesperson can provide, is to help the person look at all the angles and say, okay, what's not perfect for this for you? Why all of a sudden is it sounded good to you 10 minutes ago, and now all of a sudden that it's time to pay, it doesn't sound so good, right? But we don't we um and so I think there's room for that. Where there's not room is to be that aggressive, I'm going to push you into whatever it is and force you to say yes. We've talked
Hmm.
about that a little bit on this show already, and
Hmm.
that is something that Go for No is not. What we want to do is actually make people feel safe to say no, because no is a place that we can work from, right? If I say, can I come on your podcast? And you say no, well, it's a lot better than you saying maybe, because maybe doesn't tell me anything. Now, if you say no, then I can say, okay, interesting. So, what would I need to do to come on the show? Or is there a reason why you don't think I'm a good fit? And now we can have a dialogue. And if it's just a no, it's not a good fit, then I can walk away
Yeah.
feeling like I did everything I could.
Yeah.
You're happy because I didn't pressure you into saying yes. And that really is what a win win transaction looks like, where both parties are not, neither party is pressured, right, into doing anything. And so I think that what that requires, though, is just a willingness to communicate, and the mindset that no is okay. And instead, for especially salespeople, we've been taught like, no, you're going for yes. We're pushing it. Yes is
Yeah.
the only
Yeah.
acceptable answer, and that's what you have to get. And anything less than that's a failure. So there's a
Right.
lot of stress, right? There's a lot of stress from
Hmm.
that.
Okay. So that's good. So how can we reframe the idea of failure and rejection as something positive rather than something to avoid?
Right. So there's a model that we have in our book. It's a really simple mental model, but it is the basis for the Go for No philosophy. And that is this: that failure and success are not choices. It's not like I'm going to do one or the other. They're really a package deal. And so there's kind of this old model that we have as a society where I'm in the middle or you're in the middle. Success, yes, is on one side. Failure, rejection is on the other. And it's like we have to choose. Which one are we going to choose? Well, I want success. I'm going to go towards that. But really, the model is where we're on one side. Failure, rejection, hearing no is in the middle. And the success that we're seeking is actually on the other side of that. So we have to move through the no's. We have to move through the failure. So change the model of it's a choice on either side of me to no, I have to move through that. And that way, you don't see failure as something to avoid, but you really see that it's part of the process. And that if you fail, if you get no's, that you're not doing something wrong. You're not, we talked about the beginning of J.K. Rowling. All all famous people, all successful people heard no a
Yes.
lot
Yes.
during their career, right? They and the ones that have really been have done groundbreaking things. Thomas Edison with inventing the light bulb, and Colonel
Hmm.
Sanders and just
Yes.
the chicken recipe,
Yes.
and selling his chicken recipe across the country. And you could name Abraham Lincoln and trying and
Yes.
getting elected and losing
Yes.
and losing. These people finally got success because they didn't give
Yes.
up. And so that's
Yes.
the key.
Yes, yes, yes. My story too, perseverance. Keep knocking. The door will be opened at some point in time, right? So that's amazing.
Right.
All right. Yes, loving this conversation. So tell us about your book. Why did you write it? And what do you want readers to walk away with after reading? I'm almost sure that, the answer to that question is what we've been talking about, right? I love what you just said. No is a process to get to the other side, right? You've got to go through the no's, you got to go through the failure, right? And that's the philosophy of life. You can't win without failing. It's right. So,
Perfectly said. And you're right. And so that really is the message of the book. So go for no, though. I will say this about the book, because we talked so much about all of these concepts are in it, but it's a really short fable, and it's about a guy who wakes up one morning in a house that does not belong to him. He discovers that the house belongs to a wildly successful 10 years in the future version of him. He has somehow traveled 10 years into the future. He meets this super successful version of himself, and he is like, how did I get here? How do I own this beautiful house? What is happening? And together, this other version of him, they figure it out together that the secret is go for no. And so through this fable, we kind of impart some of these things that we've been talking about. We talk about moving the failure and success, and the idea of go for no, and persistence is a big, just being
mhm.
persistent is a big part of it. So but that's fundamentally what the book is, how the book is laid out.
Okay, I love it. That's great. Well, listen, everybody needs, we have been talking about sales, but, they say that everything in life is a presentation. So it's going for the job interview, going for, asking a girl out or asking a guy out or, everything it's a presentation. It's not just sales. I mean, we're always selling, right? You're always selling yourself. You're always selling something. So it's a great, great concept. And I love the futuristic, fable that you're saying. That's a perfect way to tell the story because it shows that what you get to, if you go through this process, absolutely love it. All right. So yeah, great conversation. So I'm glad that I said yes to have you on the show.
Me too, me too. And I have something really exciting to tell you. Can I just add one more thing?
Mhm.
So we finally, after all these years, are just in a couple months, we're releasing the sequel. And it's 25 years later, and our main character now has a daughter who just graduated college, and she needs to learn how to go for no now. So that's the sequel.
All right, yeah, pass it on.
Pass it
Generational.
on.
Yes, anything you learn, you're supposed to pass it on. Every book that I read, everything that I learn, guess who's going to hear about it? My daughter. I do the same thing. All right, so tell our listeners how they can pick up a copy of your book, if you have a website, and your social media handles.
Yeah, so it's goforno.com. I encourage people to come to Go for No. You can get the book at Amazon, or our website, but most people buy on Amazon these days. And I highly encourage you to, and I'm at Go for No on all the social media. Highly encourage you to come to our website, though, because we've got a fun Go for No quiz. We call it the No Quotient quiz. And you can test out and see if you have a high no quotient, which means really persistent, really resilient mindset, a moderate, or a low. And if it's low, don't despair. We can help you with that. But that's why you come take the quiz.
Okay, that's great. Yes. I wonder what I would fit into because like I said, when I was a salesperson, yeah, I don't like it. Now in the podcasting world, I've learned a few skills. But it's a little different. So great. Awesome. Well, listen, guys, this was a very interesting conversation today. And like I said, everybody can take something from this conversation, whether you're a salesperson, everybody is employed in some way. And you got to ask for stuff. You got to ask your boss for things. You got to ask for a day off. You got to ask for a raise. You got to ask that guy out. And what we're saying is that, yes, you can't get the success unless you get through the nose. And if you're not getting through the nose, that means you're risk aversion and you're never going to get to the other side. So that's basically the synopsis. Put it in a nice little bow for you. So go pick up a copy of Andrea's book. It's called Go for No. Yes is the destination. No is how you get there. And I will link out to our website, our social media handles, and I would have a summary of our conversation today on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I hope you guys pick up a copy of your book. And as we wrap up, Andrea, any last words?
Yeah, I would just say have fun with this. Test it out. Don't make any assumptions about what somebody is going to decide or do. That will kill you. That will kill your progress every time. So just have fun with it and try it. Go out and try it.
Yes, I love it. And like you said, practice it. You're going to be a little uncomfortable in the beginning, but practice makes perfect. That is not a fable. All right. Well, listen, guys, thanks for tuning in to this week's Author's Corner. Definitely go pick up a copy of Andrea's book, and definitely this is a tool to help you um, go for no and get the yes. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time. Namaste.